The Free Thinker Show. Ignite your mind, challenge the norm.
All right, you ready to dive in? This time we're going back to March 2023, Hard Rock Casino in Lake Tahoe. You guys remember that shooting, right?
Right.
Made big news. Turns out there's a whole lot more to it than the headlines. We're talking pure chance, alcohol-fueled bad decisions, even a desperate escape attempt. It really makes you think how fast a normal night can go dark.
It's really interesting how this whole thing shows how complicated people are, especially when they've been drinking.
Yeah, no kidding.
Shows how a regular night can become tragic just like that.
So, okay, picture this. You're at the Hard Rock, right? It's early morning, the place is buzzing.
The energy in a casino at that hour is something else, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. So we've got Omar Garcia and Edgar Delgado, two guys who just met that night, but they've been hanging out for hours, drinking, talking like old buddies.
At least that's how it starts.
Yeah.
We have to remember that initial impressions can be deceiving, especially in an environment like that.
And that's where things get complicated. We've got this witness, Noble, who saw how they were with each other. It went from casual to, heated as the night went on.
And that changed. That's a big deal. It suggests that the alcohol might have really messed with their judgment, As the night went on and they let their guard down, things became less predictable.
It's scary how alcohol can do that, bring out the worst in people. And tragically, it all built up to this awful moment. We're talking a full-on argument. Edgar pulls out a gun not just once, but multiple times. Omar tries to fight back. They struggle. And then, bang. One single gunshot changes everything. Can you imagine the chaos in that casino?
Yeah.
People running, screaming, calling 911. Total pandemonium.
You have to think about the panic, the confusion in those first few seconds.
Yeah.
Law enforcement arrives, and it's just chaos, very little information. Their first job is to get things under control, secure the area, and help anyone who's hurt.
And speaking of, imagine being that security guard, Robert Bells, who runs into Edgar right after it happened. Edgar just walks right past him. Gives me chills just thinking about it. What a terrifying experience for that guard.
Talk about pressure. They've got this huge casino to deal with, people to evacuate, and a suspect who's vanished.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, right?
Exactly.
But they got to work right away, interviewing everyone, putting the pieces together. And one witness, he was close enough to see what happened after the shot.
Whoa.
He said it was a single gunshot right to the victim's head. That little detail becomes really important later.
It always does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Every single detail can change everything for investigators.
Oh.
Like in this case, knowing how the gunshot happened, it helps them understand the crime, even what the shooter was thinking.
And while all this is going down, the police talked to the woman who was on a date with Omar earlier that night.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Can you imagine? But her interview, it helped them figure out where Omar had been, who he'd seen.
Like a trail for them to follow.
Right. Every little bit helps. And you know what else helped? Those security cameras we talked about.
Ah, the cameras. They always tell a story.
Turns out they got lucky. They had footage of Edgar Delgado, clear as day, and his girlfriend, Savannah Towle, leaving with him right after.
So now they have faces to go with the names. And a possible accomplice.
Things are getting interesting, right? And get this, at one point, they thought they had Edgar cornered in the lobby.
No way.
Swept in there, guns drawn, the whole deal.
High tension.
But wrong guy.
Wow. You can see how stressful that is for everyone, knowing this guy's out there. They have to make decisions fast, with very little information. And sometimes it doesn't go perfectly.
No kidding. It's a tough job. Now imagine being a guest in this hotel. The police are going room to room looking for Edgar, and they're not wasting any time. They're even going into rooms without warrants.
Wait, really?
Yeah. But it turns out there's this thing called exigent circumstances. Basically, when there's an emergency like an active shooter, they can bend the rules a bit to keep everyone safe.
That makes sense, in a way. It's a tough call, balancing everyone's rights with the need to catch this guy.
Exactly. And even with all that going on, they still hit snags. Like this one guest, he totally refused to let them search his room. My son's in the shower. You can't come in.
I bet that was tense.
Big time. All this time, Edgar's still out there somewhere. But like they say, you can't run forever.
Yep.
He took off in a white Toyota 4Runner right after the shooting. Police set up roadblocks everywhere, figuring he'd pop up sooner or later.
Smart move.
And sure enough, a couple of hours later, his car pulls up to a checkpoint near Highway 50.
Busted.
Game over. But here's the thing. Get this. When they arrest him, he's acting super casual, like nothing's wrong. Even jokes about needing his glasses.
Really? That's wild. It's like The weight of what he did hasn't hit him yet.
I know, right? It's surreal. But remember how Edgar had been drinking all night? Well, during the interrogation, his story starts falling apart.
The alcohol talking?
He's slurring his words, can't remember things clearly, contradicts himself, even tries to blame Savannah.
Classic. Alcohol can make people do really impulsive things, especially under pressure. And the consequences, they can be huge.
Absolutely. And it gets worse. As the interrogation goes on, he keeps messing up. Claims he doesn't remember much about the shooting, says it's all a blur. He even acts surprised when they mention the gun, says he almost never carries one. Says his own parents hate guns.
But wait a minute, didn't Savannah say something about that?
That's the thing. She said he almost never carried a gun either, which means it was super weird for him to have one that night. And that goes against what he's saying, makes it look like it wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment thing.
Premeditation.
Yeah.
Much more serious.
Exactly, like that one piece of the puzzle that just clicks into place. And speaking of Savannah, she was pretty quiet at first, but once they told her about the camera footage,
Game changer.
totally. She opened up, mentioned Edgar, saying they need to go to Mexico, escape plan.
Wow. Putting it all together, the escape plan, what she said about the gun, it's not looking good. This wasn't just some random drunken fight anymore. Nope. It's a tragedy all around. Edgar ended up pleading guilty to first-degree murder, got the maximum sentence, 55 years. Savannah admitted to getting rid of evidence, got a suspended sentence. Rough.
Makes you think. One reckless act, and lives are changed forever. Not just the victim, but everyone involved. It's a brutal reminder about violence, about taking responsibility for your actions.
It really does. This whole deep dive into the Hard Rock shooting, it's been heavy, full of twists and turns. But these stories, they make us think about human behavior, about choices, about right and wrong. So keep asking those tough questions, stay curious, and as always, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.